Welcome to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video for more great content. The film begins with a woman named Yuri, who owns a chocolate shop. We learn that she has the ability to hear what people are thinking, even when they are not speaking. This ability being 12 years ago, after an accident during a boat ride with her father. She fell into the water, and after the incident, she developed the power to hear people's thoughts. At first, this seemed like a curse, but over time, she began using her gift to help others. One day, her friend asks her why, despite having this unique ability, she still doesn't have a romantic partner. Yuri replies that if she were in a relationship and could hear her partner's every thought, it would prevent them from having a good relationship. Yuri loves good food, and often orders meals through a delivery app. Tio, a delivery person, always includes a short note with her food. She enjoys these small gestures and, over time, starts to like him. On one occasion, she leaves a note for Tio, thanking him for the food, and when he sees it, he is pleased. Another time, when she tries to order food again, the delivery fails, so she decides to go out and buy it herself. On her way, she stumbles and nearly falls, but Tio saves her. However, she cannot hear his thoughts, which surprises her. He apologizes, and they end up talking. Tio brings her food from his home since it is nearby, and Yuri enjoys it. Yuri considers giving Tio chocolates as a gift, but she changes her mind. Later, Tio is playing on a swing in the park, and when Yuri sees him, she is happy and joins him in playing. Afterward, Tio cooks for Yuri again, but this time, when she sees the food, she is hesitant. Tio reassures her that it tastes good, so she tries it and likes it. While at his place, she notices a note she had previously left, and when she asks why he kept it, Tio says it was the first note anyone had left for him. The next day, Yuri is contacted by the hospital and learns that her father has fallen ill. He has been unable to speak or move for 12 years, but because Yuri can hear his thoughts, she has always understood what he was thinking. She listens to him and responds, even though others cannot understand their communication. It is revealed that Yuri's father became paralyzed after jumping into the water to save her when she fell from the boat years ago. When Yuri returns home, she meets Tio, who tells her that it's his last day at his part-time job. They clean the leaves off a swing together. Even though Yuri can't hear Tio's thoughts, she realizes it's because he is thinking in Korean, while she only understands Japanese. The next day, Tio informs her that he will cook her favorite meal. Later, Tio appears at Yuri's workplace, having been hired as a new employee. Yuri is surprised and asks why he took the job. Tio explains that he wanted to be near her, but Yuri reminds him that they should maintain a professional relationship. In another scene, Tio is found drenched from water, and when Yuri asks what happened, he explains that there was a problem with the plumbing in his house. Yuri invites him to stay with her while his home is being fixed. The next morning, Tio cooks for Yuri, and on their way back, he talks about his past. When they arrive at his house, they find out that the repairs have been completed, and Tio returns home. Yuri visits her father and tells him how she's been eating homemade food recently. At the same time, Tio's professor, who had witnessed Yuri's fall into the water years ago, comes to see Yuri's father. It turns out the professor knew about the accident but had not intervened at the time. Tio then texts Yuri, inviting her out for ice cream, which she agrees to. During the conversation, she tells Tio that she can't continue working alongside him. The next morning, Tio sends Yuri many text messages, including a picture of the food he prepared for her, but Yuri does not reply. When Yuri leaves for work, Tio waits outside her house, but she avoids him and leaves without seeing him. However, he catches up with her, and they ride the elevator together to work. Tio tries to establish that they can maintain a professional relationship, but things remain awkward between them at work. Later, Tio tells his professor and a colleague about Yuri, explaining that he has feelings for her, but she doesn't respond to his messages. The professor, who had seen Yuri talking to her father, becomes curious, especially since Yuri's father cannot speak. As a result, the professor starts to investigate Yuri's strange ability to hear thoughts. Yuri is at work when Tio brings her chocolates and flowers. Later, inspired by his Valentine's Day gifts, she creates a package based on the flowers and chocolates he gave her. On her way back to Tio's house, she returns his belongings and thanks him for the flowers. When he invites her to have ice cream, she agrees with a smile, though she hints it's not something she typically does. After work, they unexpectedly meet again in the elevator, where Hanaoka catches sight of them together. At work, Tio is spending time with Nishina, a younger woman, and Yuri watches them interact. Later, Yuri confides in a friend about Nishina, admitting she fears Nishina may be interested in Tio. Yuri plans to give Tio a gift but becomes disappointed when she sees Nishina giving him something, so she leaves her gift behind. Tio later takes her to a restaurant, where he gently asks if she's interested in anyone. Laughing, she adds, "You're really something." They leave the restaurant and take a brief walk, during which Tio intertwines his fingers with hers, expressing his feelings. When they part, Yuri finally gives Tio the gift she had prepared. Encouraged by her friend, Yuri decides to tell Tio how she feels. However, when she arrives at his place, he isn't there, so she begins composing a message, only to find that Tio has already left her a heartfelt note expressing his feelings. She blushes as she overhears him thinking about her from Korea, replying in an embarrassed yet happy manner. At work, Hanaoka notices her fondness for Tio and even mentions he once felt similarly about her. Later, returning home in high spirits, she finds Tio waiting. When he asks about her feelings, she tearfully tells him she doesn't feel the same way. The next day, Tio becomes a permanent employee, though he seems unsatisfied. Yuri's friend asks about her disagreement with Tio, and Yuri explains she was trying to protect her feelings for Hanaoka from being hurt by Tio. They go on a work trip, where Hanaoka tries to take a photo with Tio but feels awkward. Hanaoka later tells Tio that there's nothing between him and Yuri, just as Yuri happens to see them together. That evening, Hanaoka wishes Yuri happiness with Tio, and when she heads outside, she encounters Tio. They sit down to talk, and when Tio asks about her feelings, she shyly admits her lack of interest, and on their way back from a trip, Yuri finds herself thinking about Tio. Hanaoka invites her to play a game with the condition that if she loses, she has to meet Tio. Hanaoka wins. Yuri realizes that Hanaoka is letting her to Tio, subtly encouraging her to pursue Tio. She goes to meet Tio, and in the conversation, she confesses her love for him. After returning from the trip, Tio takes her to a beautiful place where they take photos and enjoy their time together. Yuri later confides in her friend about sometimes sensing others' thoughts, but her friend is skeptical. Reflecting alone, Yuri realizes that overhearing thoughts can be troubling. Tio, aware of this, talks to his professor about Yuri. The professor, who sees Tio as family, advises Tio not to pursue her romantically. Tio leaves, and Yuri's friend is surprised by what she overheard. After work, Yuri and Tio decide to have dinner. Tio notices her discomfort and asks, and Yuri explains she argued with her friend. Tio reassures her and helps her reconcile. Walking to Yuri's place for a meal, they find a storybook that mirrors Yuri's life, about a woman who can hear others' thoughts. Yuri explains the story to her friend, who reassures her it's just fiction. Yuri's friend advises her not to overthink the book, although its themes are unsettling. Supported by her friend, as Yuri heads home, she unexpectedly encounters Tio, who warmly offers her a meal. Over their conversation, she shares a heartfelt memory of how she once fell into a river and had to be rescued by her father. Later, her professor calls and recounts how he was there to help both Yuri and her father during that time. When the professor brings up the idea of separating from Yuri, Tio hesitates, unwilling to let her go. On a visit to her father, Yuri senses his concerns and his protective nature toward her. He subtly warns her about trusting the professor too much and advises her that, ultimately, Tio is the one she should rely on. Though puzzled, Yuri takes her father's words to heart, and her trust in Tio deepens. A woman with the ability to understand the thoughts of others, much like Yuri, arrives and tells Hanaoka that the book he holds is not just a history but her story. She encourages him to meet Yuri, and when he does, he confirms that she can indeed hear his thoughts. As they read the book together, they discover the story of another woman with this same gift, whose lover tragically died. Fearing that Tio might face a similar fate because of her, Yuri decides to distance herself from him, though she had longed to be with him. Heartbroken, she leaves in the shadows. Tio chases after her, hoping to hold her back, but they end up separated and filled with sorrow. Tio then resigns from his job, later telling his professor that he and Yuri have parted ways. Following this, Teo returns to Korea, and Hanaoka also travels there to find him, encouraging him to go back to work. When Yuri arrives in Korea, she rushes to Teo and embraces him, realizing that the other woman's lover hadn't died because of her, but due to heart disease. In the end, Yuri and Teo finally reunite. As she tells him she loves him, the movie concludes with them finding solace in each other. Since the channel is new, don't forget to like and subscribe.